Gosh, well, we've been fostering now for 2 years. I'd worked in the bank for 20 years, of which the last 5 I'd probably hated. So when we started the fostering, so it all fell into place, really. We had a little girl, first of all, and she was 7. She walked in the door with the happiest, smiliest, cheerful face I've ever seen. She was a lovely, bonny little girl. She really was. She was just wonderful. She stayed with us for 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks, we had moments where she was not quite so wonderful and she was a little bit stroppy and, you know, a 7-year-old little madam, but she was lovely. She then was moved back to where she was originally from because she was placed with foster carers that could look after her and her brother. So it was very sad when she moved on, but it was the right thing for her, and that was all great. And then it wasn't much longer after that we got the boy that we've currently got now. When he came to us, he was 9. He's 11 now. He was a bit anxious because he'd literally been brought straight from home. He'd come from his house, they'd picked him up, brought him to us with a few clothes, you know, and I mean a few clothes and a couple of pairs of pants in a bag. At the beginning, he just was like this little lost soul. He was quite confident he was quite chatty, but you know, it was sort of sad seeing him come in, to be honest, because, you know, he sat on the bed and he was like, oh, it's a comfortable bed. And he was so pleased to have a comfortable bed because he said his bed was full of springs and it was really uncomfortable. And the house was just much more peaceful than he'd been used to. He has now changed, you know, he's grown, he's massively, he's shot up, he just looks healthier, which isn't, you know, he's got colour in his cheeks and he's a strapping lad now. The best compliment I've ever had was for his birthday party. His uncle came and his uncle pulled me aside and was crying and said, he's such a changed boy. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for him. Also, Dad has sent many messages of support saying how he's so happy to see him, you know, his son in a happy place, and his son's the happiest he's ever seen him. And to me, that's the best compliment I could have had. That's why I do this. You know, he'd never been on holiday before. He'd never been on a train before. His first train journey was like when you take a sort of 3-year-old or whatever on the train and they're excited. You know, I've seen lots of things, lots of firsts for him through his eyes. And that's been really lovely, really lovely. You know, I can see the difference we're making. It's not necessarily so obvious in regards to, oh, you know, he's doing this instead of this. Just emotionally, you know, emotionally there's a difference that we're making. And I just know that we're there for him. And that's all we can, you know, he can ask of us and we can ask of him, is that we're there for one another. He was doing his life story work and he drew his safe place and he drew our house. And that in itself was lovely. And then he drew lots of trees. And his therapist said, so what's the purpose of the trees? And he said, well, it's all of us and all our roots. We're stronger together. So he gets that life here is better than it was at home. And we're not doing anything out of the ordinary. I'm really not. I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. He's just got a safe and secure and loving home. And I'm just being a parent to him and a friend. And that's what he needed. It always sounds wrong because you don't want a child to actually be grateful. But I did think when I started this that children would come and be so pleased to be in this lovely home and having all these nice things and doing all these nice things, that it would all be lovely. And I did think it would be a bit unicorns, you know, and rainbows, and they'd be so grateful that they were having this wonderful life. But actually they're not. And they shouldn't have to be either. You know, yes, they're going to be angry because however lovely life is here, they're not with their family, that they, you know, for whatever reason they can't be, you know, they still love their family. And it's really, really difficult for them. And that's what I have to remember, that however nice I can make it, it can't really make up for what they've lost. And what they grieve for, it's not actually what they've lost, it's what they feel they should have had. And it was really hard for them to then come here and think this is what life should have been like at home. And it wasn't. And that's a real, you know, that's a real issue for these children. Goodness me, it's so much more rewarding than working in the bank. All my life, I've always felt that I didn't achieve my potential in something. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing. And now I feel I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And I actually feel so much more satisfied and content with my life, it has made a huge difference to me in every single way.